guys, I hope you're well. In this video, I just wanted to do some magazine flipping. I've got a magazine in front of me. It's like 2 a.m. where I am, and again, apologies because you might hear my neighbour in the background. She just won't go to sleep. If any of you live in flats or apartment complexes and you're a content creator, you can probably relate. But I should be asleep as well, but I just couldn't sleep for some reason. Just got some stuff on my mind. So this is for those of you who may be having insomnia and just trouble getting some shut eye. Hopefully it will relax you. So the magazine that I've got in front of me, I've had it for a very long time. It's a March 2019 edition. It costs £5.50. I remember when magazines were like under £1 in the UK. It costs a lot of money. And it's called Psychologies. I wouldn't normally I don't really buy magazines. But I think I bought this because it just kind of caught my eye. It's got a lot of nice articles. So, Psychologies magazine, it says, learn the simple secret to feeling happy with life. Mind power, how your thoughts can heal your body. Let go of bitterness and move on. There's an interview with Diane Kruger, who's on the front cover of the magazine, and she talks about anxiety, grief, freedom, and new horizons. It also says, love your job, your dreams can come true. And then some life school articles, how to deal with grief, train yourself to sleep better. Oh, that's really interesting. I don't think I've read that one. Say goodbye to perfectionism. And a 16-page dossier. Create love that lasts. Miserable in love. Stop sabotaging your happiness. The secrets to affair-proof in your relationship, which is really funny. I find that really funny. I don't know. I think these kinds of magazines, do you find them helpful? Sometimes they just create all these like, here is the solution to all your problems, please buy me, look better, feel better, you need this. I think it's just capitalism, it's just stuff we don't need, but it's not going to sell. It's just part of the consumer culture, you know, the happy, fake happiness. It's got stuff like happiness book club and be content with your lot. But the thing that is great is it's got a lot of articles and interviews with psychologists, so I guess that's good. There's like a contents page. I've always enjoyed these kinds of noises, like paper noises and like magazine rustling noises. And it says, all you need is love. Want to know how to feel happier? Love more. A Harvard study followed 268 people over the course of their lives. Warm relationships had the greatest impact on life satisfaction. They never really talk about relationships, I guess. We're just so focused on that. If you've got that, then that's great, but some people don't, and it can alienate. It's not really a fix. There is a lot of toxic positivity, or maybe it's just my cynical viewpoint. I don't know. There's always a focus on being happy. Oh, I like this. It says, bittersweet. Okay, I might read this article. Let me just fold the paper. Bittersweet. Let me redact the name. Name redacted. When a woman's husband lost his job, she harbored vengeful thoughts over their bad luck. She knew she had to overcome her bitterness, but how? The words my husband used to tell me that he had lost his job escaped me. That moment and the hours that followed are a blur of shock and panic. What I remember is realizing months later that this unexpected detour had turned me into what no one wants to be, a bitter person. I first felt bitterness as a shocking, overwhelming urge while setting the table for dinner to wreak revenge on my husband's former employer for throwing our lives into disarray. My husband had given himself occasionally to do organisation for a decade and would move to a new country so he could take the job. We had oriented our lives around the place, and although work phone calls were a constant soundtrack to our lives, we were truly grateful that he had meaningful work to sustain us, raising our family in such a beautiful part of the world. Leaving our home and friends had been an enormous wrench, but it seemed worth it. We felt as if we were a part of a community, and we made wonderful friends all over the world through his job. Promotion to a senior leadership role was my husband's most recent reward, something he'd worked so hard for, but suddenly everything changed. His redundancy hadn't come as a complete surprise. It was an awful conclusion to months of instability, yet it felt like an act of devastating disloyalty. It seemed we had uprooted our lives for an association that had tossed us aside. People I had thought of as friends had, to my mind, acted as complicit bystanders while my husband walked the plank. Stark record of resentment. We threw ourselves into positive thinking, trying to see the opportunities in this unexpected life shift. A tidal wave of supportive and encouraging comments from scores of my husband's former colleagues and associates helped, but as the weeks passed, reality set in. Making ends meet as a family of 5, oh my gosh, on my income as a freelance journalist began to feel less like an exciting adventure and more like unbearable pressure. I soon learned that bitterness is a progressive disease. I began experiencing theory, intrusive thoughts that quickly spiraled into feelings of self-pity. Eventually, bitterness seems to leak out of me with every step. I pictured it leaving a trail of poisonous slime wherever I went and started to tire of the sound of my own voice bemoaning our lot. there's more to come on the next page. Oh gosh, this is a long article. I'm wondering what happens though. Whoops. I knew it was time to deal with the bitterness when I was standoffish to the point of rudeness to some of my husband's ex-colleagues. Leaving these encounters, I felt empty. Acting on my bitterness resolved nothing. Being hostile had not brought peace, and the fact that I had knowingly added to the difficulties of other people's days by intentionally making them uncomfortable convinced me I had lost my way. I felt I needed to understand why bitterness was engulfing me in order to find other ways to handle things. I turned to a therapist who suggested that what I was really feeling beneath the bitterness was shame. Your husband was betrayed, she said. You made huge sacrifices for his job. So this turn of events has impacted everything from your family's security to your own sense of safety. The root of my bitterness, I realised as she spoke, stemmed from my belief that we'd been betrayed by people we trusted to act with integrity and to treat us fairly. Bitterness is out of common parlance, but if you think about the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety and survival, and the things we all need to feel secure and happy, this event has jeopardized them for you, she said. She believed bitterness is a protective mechanism that can be triggered if we feel shame. The urge to attack when I wanted to get even with those who had wronged us is the other side of the same coin. You experience a mix of toxic social and cultural shame because you made all this effort for an opportunity that went wrong, and now you're wondering who the hell you are and how you're going to keep your children safe, she said. That explained why living in a small rural community where everybody knows us, it feels more like a breakup than the end of an employment contract. It seems as if everyone is looking at you and you can't escape. A chartered psychologist believes bitterness is ultimately about desire to change the past. Dealing with bitterness is like tackling forgiveness, he said. Forgiveness is letting go of the hope that the past could have been any different. I cried when I heard these words. My bitter feelings arose because events unfolded that I believe should not have happened. Yet I had no power to alter their course. I feel resentful because writing this late on a Friday night, amid endless deadlines and financial pressure, I feel I'm the one paying the price for decisions that don't seem fair and about which I had no say. But acting out of bitterness is like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die. That resonated. I realised I was rude to my husband's friends because I'd been nurturing the thought that they had let him down by failing to fight his corner. They might actually have tried to advocate for him or being powerless. I had chosen to believe the disloyalty narrative with no regard for the possibility that those I was mentally holding culpable might not have played any part of it. A better man than me, I also wondered how my husband was managing to walk this path so peacefully. Accept it, deal with it, and move on has long been a favourite saying of his, and that's exactly what he seems to have done. How? I could have contested events, and as the time had passed, I wondered if I put up little resistance. Self-doubt whispers that I'm an idiot for giving up without a fight, he said, but ultimately I suppose I'm at ease with myself. And the fact that I no longer work in a structure that does not want me. Forgiveness has also played a part in freeing him. Forgiveness in the Irish language is, I can't pronounce that, Meithuanas, which literally means to good someone. He told me it's the same I thought mignon meant poop, but anyway, it's not that he doesn't see the point of bitterness, more a pragmatic sense that holding on to bitter feelings could do him harm. And where's the sense in that? He's not downplaying the treatment he got, he just resolved to let it go. Moving on has not been easy, but wishing others well, even though they did him wrong, and being tenacious about letting go of mental noise related to the past has been a continuous process, he said. There is no silver bullet for overcoming bitterness, but my psychiatrist's analysis unlocked something for me, granting me permission to face my feelings honestly. As I did, bitterness began to lose its grip. When I lose my way, I look to my husband, whose capacity to move on with grace and good humour serves as my true north. Interestingly, time spent sitting in silence every day seems to have helped him hold this posture. Some say this habit leads to an inner reservoir of silence that creates the capacity to handle whatever life throws our way, he said, judging by the serenity with which he's handling this uncertain phase of life. There's clearly something in that. By recognizing that my bitterness stems from shame, I'm learning to diffuse it. I'm also reminded that bitterness can be diluted by focusing on good things, including health and happiness, and by actively amplifying things that bring us joy. Choosing not to utter every bitter thought that passes through my mind is a battle, but I'm finding freedom in letting some of them pass unspoken. It seems to empty them of their power. Who said life was fair? Bitterness can creep into the heart too easily, triggered by anything that leaves us feeling we've been treated unfairly. Whatever its source, a damage in childhood, difficult divorce or betrayal by a friend, facing the loss of the life he pictured but which suddenly seems beyond reach is a painful road. Yet as I inch along it, the air is so much sweeter here than back among the dark shadows where bitterness still dwells. 6 months have passed now, and although the job market is bleak, we are cautiously nurturing optimism. Hopefully things will look different in a year or two. There are difficult days, and we both have to push against clouds of despair when they descend, but unlocking bitterness helps us stay positive about the future. Life doesn't always go the way we hoped, and the opportunities to develop a heart full of bitterness are endless, but so too are the opportunities to overcome it. And then there are some tips on how to overcome bitterness. Number 1, write down on pieces of paper the words and sentences associated with how the relevant situation makes you feel. For example, I feel unseen, I am unheard, I am angry, I am hurt. Number 2, in a metal bowl or bucket, burn the papers safely one by one. As you say, I hereby let go of this hurt and all the negative feelings associated with it. And number 3, sit by the fire with loved ones and discuss positive ways to move forward. Sharing your ritual, as long as you feel comfortable doing so, can enhance its sense of ceremonial gravitas. Okay, so I redacted this person's name for a reason. What do I think? I think that from my perspective, I think this person was incredibly lucky to even have a family and have children and have their health and have their partner. I'm not saying that what they felt, they had every right to feel what they felt because they sacrificed so much. But we just have to realise, I think, difficulties give us the resilience to deal with things. For example, from my perspective, reading her is just like, get over it. I don't know, it sounds harsh, but it's like, you've got your health, your husband has got work experience, pretty sure, he worked there for a long time and he probably has work experience and he will get another job. But if you don't have your health and if you don't have your happiness, then what is the point of having a job? What is the point of having those things? What is the point of having money? A lot of people think the perfect house, the perfect car, or the perfect family will make me happy. But as cliche as that sounds, it all starts with you, and not having those things sometimes makes it easier. For example, from my personal point of view, I've been jobless for a very long time, and I've had jobs. So I've had periods where I haven't had employment, and then had employment, and then haven't had employment. I can really relate to this woman's husband. I get it, because you give your all to a company, you want that job so much, and it's not just survival, it's a meaningful work. It lifts you out of depression, it gives you routine and structure and something to do, but at the end of the day, the company has no loyalty to you. And I guess that's the same thing for everything, for every company. And we really do place so much importance on career and this and that. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't have the passion for something, but sometimes you just have to treat it like an assignment. Even friends, even when you go to work, of course everybody's different, we want to connect as humans, but if you're not getting that from your job, or if you're not getting that from your boss, then you're gonna have to treat it like how they treat you, basically. If they let you go and there's like this coldness and dismissiveness, then you have to just move on. And it sounds very harsh, very, very harsh, I'm aware of that. But even the friends that you've had, you didn't always have them. You didn't always have this job. You didn't always have that routine, and yet you survived in the past. That's how I see it. Every time I get a new job, I'm grateful, but I don't really attach myself to it this time personally, because that is just a company. They don't care about you, and that is the harsh truth. There is just business for them. Unless you work for a smaller business and you're working in the charity sector or something, the people at the top, the bosses, they don't care. They just care about their own pockets. For me, it was citing budget cuts and bullshit like that, excuse my language, but at the end of the day, it's something that I can't control, and I have the skills that I have nobody else has, in the sense that my boss hired me for a reason. It's because he was impressed with my work experience, but then I still have those skills. Nobody can take that away from me. I can just transfer them to another company, to another workplace, and it is hard. Joblessness is hard, especially if you've built an identity around it. But I think that what this writer of this article, I think she's right. It could be triggered by something like that happened in the past. If you've been betrayed in the past and you put your all into it, you do get that sense of disappointment when they're not loyal to you. But here's the reality: even the best job and the best boss in the world is not going to be loyal to you. At the end of the day, they're going to look after their own interests. So it's important to see a job or even a relationship as sort of like the icing on the cake. The cake is still nice without the icing. It's not be all or end all, or the cherry on top of the cake. The decoration on the cake, the little, we need to just let go and just think of ourselves as worthy, not because of our jobs, not because of our kids, not because of our house, not because of our car, not because of the things that we own, the material things that we own, but because we are who we are and we are worthy. We are intrinsically worthy. I think a lot of these people who feel devastated when they lose a job or when a relationship ends is because they don't believe that they're worthy, intrinsically worthy, or when they chase someone who doesn't want them only to be disappointed and rejected again. It's, mostly unconditional love that we received from our parents, but even if our parents were not proud of us and did not love us and did not provide that consistent care, does that make us less worthy? No, you're still worthy whether you have these things or whether you don't have these things. So that's just my point of view, and I think that as a magazine, I think, yes, there is that toxic positivity, but I think it's important to be realistic and to think, you know what, even a CEO or a janitor, different roles, different salaries, but at the end of the day, as harsh as that sounds, we're all going to be 6 foot under. If you're a king or if you're a homeless person, the destination is still the same. Unless you've been bad, then you're going to hell. I'm just kidding. And it says stuff like, if you're willing to commit and work hard, you can achieve anything. I don't think so. I think the game is rigged sometimes. It is all about who you know and connections, but yeah, hard work is important. And then it talks about grief and stuff. But, grief. I think a lot of people think that grief is like, when you lose a loved one or when you lose a pet or something like that. But grief and mourning can also be not losing something, but just mourning the life that you never had, or feeling like time has passed you by. I think this magazine is just so revolved around people who are middle class, and it makes the assumption that everyone has a partner, and that, this is quite interesting. She says, it's just like an advice column. She says, I am 25 and have never had a boyfriend. My friends tell me I am attractive and that they don't know why I am single, but they don't know that I have never had a relationship. I am confident and I'm doing well in my career. If I like someone, I flirt with them, and they often seem interested, but it comes to nothing, and I feel hurt as though they have been stringing me along. Do you think it could be because I'm a bit overweight? And then the advice columnist, she says, what they called agony aunts. She says, in a loving way, I want to say to you, no, your weight does not determine either your lovability or your love ability, so your ability to love. I am going to suggest a rather counterintuitive idea. Go on a social media diet designed to make you feel better. Also, look out for a page called Body Pussy Panda. Regarding the boyfriend question, I invite you to look at the idea of friendships in general. It sounds as if you are part of group activities but lack intimacy in the sense of being real, connected and vulnerable. The word intimacy is often misused as if it's just sex. See link right. Okay, it's just I think that they've just put a link to an article I want to check out later. If being known and accepted are part of the relationship you want, try the babysit of letting one carefully chosen friend know how you feel. It is hard to accept love from another person if there's an unkind voice in your head getting in the way, so I hope you'll read my comments about challenging your internal narrative. Remember that if anyone makes you feel that you need to be less than to win their love, then they're already lost. For me, personally, I've never really been interested in anyone who makes me want to be less, but it was always like, this person's too good for me, or this person's out of my league, and things like that. Until you catch them like in the staff room and they eat their food and then get some tissue and then leave it behind, they don't put it in the bin, and you just think, oh, get real, why was I into that person? Because everyone's shit stinks, and no, you're not worse than anyone, nobody's better than you. That's just stupid. I don't know, yeah. But I do think our problems with relationships we find. So this woman who feels that she can't find love because she's overweight, I think I can guarantee you that if she began to lose weight, she will still not be able to find love, because it's just a shame that she's carrying. It might come from childhood. It might be something her mother said. You're eating a lot, lose some weight. It might be something that she went through in high school. You know, people teasing her, bullying her, mocking her, or maybe she spends a long time on Instagram looking at attractive couples, which is just not real. It's not real life. You've got no idea what's going on behind closed doors. She might be depressed, he might be cheating, or, you know, vice versa. You just don't know. And it is all about, you know, just with jobs, it is all about learning to be happy just as you are. Those things are important. It's important to feel supported. It's important to be loved, just like it's important to have money to survive, right? But I guess that nobody gives those things to you. Like, if love is something that your partner gives you, and that worthiness is something that your partner gives you, then when they leave you, or when they're no longer attracted to you, does that mean that you are no longer worthy or attractive or lovable? No, you're still the same person. was kind to them, and then that subconsciously they're looking for women who with blonde hair, and that's what they find attractive in a partner. Or maybe they're looking to be mothered, so they're looking for women who are kind of stronger physically, because they want to be taken care of. But it's all psychology, and it's got nothing to do with you, and it's got nothing to do with your attractiveness. It's not an objective thing, it's a very subjective thing. Everybody finds something different. Some people have a fetish for overweight people, for God's sake. Does that mean there's something wrong with skinny people? No. It's just that person, and it's so silly to think, oh, I have to be this for this person too. Trust me, you could be a perfect 10 and not have a man like you just because you're just not what they're looking for psychologically, which has got nothing to do with you but more to do with what they lived through when they were younger, or what they've been exposed to because of their culture. It's all just irrelevant. And again, with jobs and with relationships, nobody can give you anything that you don't already have. And I think that, loneliness sucks, but independence is a good thing. Just not being scared of anything and accepting things and not having control over anything, and accepting that it's kind of like a wave. If a wave hits you, it's gonna hit you, and there's nothing you can do. It's a wave. It's nature, and it's the same with events. You can be prepared, and there are things within your control. You can lose weight, or you can adapt a healthier lifestyle, but you can't control who likes you or who doesn't like you. And you can have the best CV and apply for jobs and not get it just because it could be something as simple as they hired an internal candidate, or their application process is unfair. Things like that. It's got nothing to do with your worth or how smart you are. It's just it. It's important to realise that you're worthy, and that whatever happens, that you can contribute to the world, and to think in terms of abundance. There's loads of opportunities for love, and there's lots of opportunities for jobs, and there's lots of opportunities for friends, and there's lots of opportunity to laugh and just get whatever you want out of life. I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be fixed. I think this magazine that I'm looking at is just, they've got a particular demographic in mind, and they're trying to sell, It's just a lot of I don't know. What kind of magazines do you read? Do you like fashion magazines? Do you like psychology magazines? TV guides, movie reviews? But I think it's all about deciding what makes you happy, even if it's something as small as just a cup of coffee or fresh air, or being healthy, walking outdoors, being physically fit, and just enjoying life by yourself. You know, you don't have to tick all those boxes to have the perfect life. Sometimes it's just about having gratitude for like the smallest things, a friend, a pet, books. You know, there's more to life than milestones and partners and the big house. They've got some lovely recipes, oh my god. Beetroot juice pancakes, gosh, I've never heard of that. Sometimes I like looking at magazines and they have like these recipes and just think, oh, I'd like to try this recipe, you know, and just take part in mindful cooking and just nourishing myself and watching a favourite TV show, things like that, simple things. I've heard of maple syrup pancake, but never beetroot juice pancakes. Looks interesting. I like tapping on the magazines, like tapping sound. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the falling rain. If you're new to my channel, please don't forget to click on subscribe and like and comment and share your journey. I'm gonna go off to sleep now. It's approaching. It's 2:45. Oh my gosh. So